Today after work, I got an exciting notification on my phone. Forever Entertainment was going to be showing the demo for Front Mission 3, the remake, at the Tokyo Game Show, and they had uploaded footage of the demo onto their YouTube channel. Longtime watchers of this channel will know that I love Front Mission 3 and have been looking forward to this remake since it was announced in September of 2022. So, what did I think of the demo footage? Let's start with the good. The opening cutscenes do a good job of capturing the spirit of the original. 3D environments for battles are clean and well lit. They did not change any of the maps or layouts in the demo missions that I saw. They keep the scale and placement consistent between the original and the remake. And I like those decisions. I like the models for the Wanzers. And I'm sure that they will look even better when the game is released, especially on more powerful hardware than the Switch, like the PS4 and PS5. The camera is much smoother than the PlayStation original. It pans and scans without juddering and jumping. But of course it does. I mean, it's just more powerful hardware. But I do like that as an improvement. And I also like that they kept the original character designs and portraits. They scaled them down a little bit, and they up-resed the images, obviously, but it is the same art style, and I'm glad that they did that. Now let's talk about the not so good. So first off, where's the music? I know it's not technically unusual to have demos without music, but I can't help but be concerned. I saw many people in the comments who were concerned about the sound effects, but honestly, the problem's not the sound effects themselves, it's the sound mixing. And when the music is added, it will help tremendously. There are just a lot of ambient sound and loud sound effects, and without the music to balance it all out, and everything being so loud instead of being mixed down with the music, it's not a good impression that it leaves. There's a lot of ambient sound, and that concerns me because you don't really need the ambience, you just need music. The OST is good, and I'm sure it will be added, but I'm shocked that they posted it without the music. I just, maybe the demo and the show could played without music. It's a loud show, so I'm sure the sound effects are loud so that people can hear them at the show. But I don't know, just putting it online without some of the OST playing just feels like a real oversight to me. Or just without some sound mixing in general, because putting out a demo for gameplay at a show and putting a demo of gameplay online, it's gonna hit very differently. And I just feel like somebody in their marketing department should be like, hey, we should work on the sound mixing for this and add some music before we put this out on YouTube. And I hope there's going to be music in the game, because I'll tell you what, that would be a big blow for me if the OST was not there. I don't know how they could possibly get away with not putting music in the game, but I don't know. It was just a weird choice, I thought, not to have music in the trailer at all. The rendered backgrounds need more detail. They look real-time rendered, which is fine, but they do not have the details of even the originals. And the originals are like really bit crushed, but despite that, you put scan lines on it like I've done in the clips you're seeing, and they have like a nice appearance, but these are just real unfinished looking. They need some more polish, and honestly, being 2D backdrops for the dialogue going on in the foreground, they probably would have been better served as pre-rendered images like the originals, but just in high resolution. I'm not sure this would have saved on assets, and I'm just wondering, what's the aversion in the modern gaming industry to using pre-rendered backgrounds nowadays? Everything has to be rendered in engine, and even a background like this, you save what resources you can. It just seems like a smart idea. So I'm not really sure about these backgrounds. I feel like that, I don't mind them moving. I saw some people commenting how they didn't like the movement. That doesn't bother me so much. It makes it feel 3D like you're there. So it gives a good illusion of depth. But at the same time, they just don't look very interesting to look at. They're just really plain looking. They don't have a lot of really good textures on them, and the textures they have I'm just not very pleased with. If they're going to have these backgrounds, they just need to finish them out and release a version that it's not quite so distractingly bare, because you spend a lot of time looking at these backgrounds and cutscenes, and I just feel like that they need more attention than they've received here. A lot of the movement and the weight of the Vanzers that made them feel real instead of like little models you're playing with on a screen is gone. The animations are really stiff, and they just look unfinished. So you compare the movement in the cutscene, compare the movement in the cutscene here to the movement in the original, and they just don't really feel like anything is happening. Watch the truck come across. In the original, it looks kind of realistic in its movement, but in the remake, trying to cover that wide screen in the same amount of time, it just is comically bad to watch. It just doesn't look right. There's a lot of canned animation in the original one. Like, characters had certain little poses and animations they would do, but they had a lot of personality in them, and some of those animations are only partially represented here. Like Ryogo's, he used to do the forward and then turn his gun over like he was doing a thumbs up, thumbs down. And he doesn't do the whole animation here. And there's a lot of things like that. Whenever they fire the machine guns, there's no recoil for the weapons. They don't hold it at their hip. They hold it out in front of them. And it just looks weird, especially to somebody who's played the original a lot. I didn't really care for their choices here. And again, it just looks unfinished, like they just didn't do the animations. And considering this is the same engine, I'm assuming, as Front Mission First and Front Mission 2, which I haven't played. And I know that seems weird that I haven't played those two remakes, but I don't have the same attachment to them that I have for 3. And my plan was to play 3 without the knowledge of 1 and 2 to sort of color my thinking on the animations and the appearance. I just wanted to be able to compare 3 to 3. And so my goal was to play the remake of 3 and then go back and play the remake of 2 and 1. But I don't know. I hope that's not the way it looks in the first and second game. I haven't looked into it. But it doesn't look right for Front Mission 3 in particular. And even if it is how it looks in the first and second game, Front Mission 3 had such good animations for the mechs that I feel like that not including them is definitely a mistake. I need to do some motion capture or something to make these movements look a little bit more realistic's not the word I'm looking for, but a little bit more faithful to the original maybe is what I'm looking for. It just doesn't feel right. I hope they fix this before the actual release. Another thing that I thought was a weird decision is that the translation does not appear to have been touched up at all. And while I find the original charming and nostalgic, it seems lazy to port the game without allowing a new localization team to take a crack at improving the dialogue and delivery. I just feel like with, a lot of these re-releases, like I can't help but think about Star Ocean's recent remake, which isn't perfect either in my opinion, but it's really phenomenal. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't know, I'm kind of picky and nostalgic about the original, I guess. Kind of like this game. But the translation and voice work in that game are just like, they just elevate it to a whole nother level. And I'm really disappointed that they didn't get a localization team to come in and sort of not change the dialogue, but punch it up a little bit to make it a little bit more to modern standards, I would say. What we expect nowadays, it does feel very dated, and it's going to feel more dated as the game goes on, because it starts out okay, but as the game goes on, the translation really starts to struggle in a couple of spots. And so I would have loved to have seen them add some voice acting to the presentation. That's not necessarily a requirement, but I am disappointed to see that it wasn't done. I know the original game didn't have voice acting, but it just would have been a nice touch. So I'm left with two impressions about this game. It's if it's in a close to release state, then it comes across as cheap and even a little lazy to me. If it's still a ways away from release, then it feels like a good base, honestly, to build from. But it does need a lot more work. But that's sort of understandable if it's far away from release. Maybe they just felt like they needed to put something out there, and they wanted to put it in consumers' hands to kind of get some, I don't know, some field testing for it. I mean, I'm glad to see an update on the game after 2 years. But I think it needs quite a bit more time in the oven just based on what I'm seeing here. Like, it just doesn't feel ready. It doesn't feel like it has everything it needs to really do the original game justice. Because the original game is so good that, you know, I'd really hate for them to release something like this that just would not live up to the original. You know, what I really want is the original, but with like a nice fresh coat of paint, with modern amenities and updated translation and things like that. Just make the original but better. And this doesn't feel like that. It feels, well, like I said, it either feels cheap or unfinished. And if it's cheap, that really boils down to how close it is to release. If it's really close to release, then it feels cheap. If it's pretty far from release, like if we're looking at 2025 or 2026 or even later, well, we don't have much later left in 2024. But if we're looking at 2025 and 2026, then I say it's a good base. And, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that they have a plan to pull this out and do something amazing with it. But right now, it's good to hear more news about the game. It's good to know the game is alive and is being developed and is, nearing a state of completion. But based on what I'm seeing, this game needs more than it currently has. So here's hoping that, it doesn't come out too early. It doesn't come out prematurely, that they take their time and really beef it up. Voice acting is not necessary. I'm just saying it's something that I would have liked to have seen. Even the translation is secondary, as long as the game looks and feels good compared to the original. Because if it doesn't feel or look good compared to the original, which was a PlayStation 1 game, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to play it. And I'd be really disappointed, because that means it probably would never get remade again. And that seems like it'd be a terrible shame. So that's my thoughts. Watch some more footage that I have here of the comparisons between. But I know this video is it's scripted. I wrote a script for it, but I've gone off script pretty hard as we've been going along in it. And I know this video comes out about a week after the footage was released. It'd take me a little time to script and write and edit and all that sort of stuff. But thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a like, subscribe, share it with people if you want to just have good comparison footage. It's something I really worked on. I actually booted up the game and played through the same length as the demo, just so I could have some good clean 1080p footage with scan lines to compare it to, and also just to get a feel for what I was looking at. And I was like, am I remembering these animations being smoother, or is my memory jaded by loving this game so much? And it turns out that no, I wasn't jaded. It's just better. So hopefully they'll make some improvements. But thank you again for watching, and as always, have a great day.